On a quiet morning in September 1922, two teenagers walked down a dirt lane outside New Brunswick, New Jersey. What they found would shock the nation. A minister and a choir singer lay side by side beneath a tree. Both had been shot. Both were dressed for church. And between their bodies were torn love letters. This case would become the biggest trial in America before Lindbergh. And to this day, nobody has ever been convicted. Who were these two people? Why would a respected pastor risk everything for an affair the whole town already knew about? And if so many people had a reason to want them gone, why did every single suspect walk free? Edward Hall was the rector of St. John the Evangelist. He was a pillar of New Brunswick society. He had married into money. His wife, Frances, came from a wealthy and well-connected family. Eleanor Mills sang in his choir. Her husband was the church sexton. The man who swept the floors. Hall walked on. On paper, the two families could not have been more different. But for years, members of the congregation quietly noticed how close their pastor and his choir singer had become. Notes were passed. Glances lingered. In a town this small, nothing stays hidden, except perhaps a motive for murder. By the summer of 1922, the affair was no longer a secret. Eleanor wrote Hall letters so intimate that reading them aloud years later would scandalize a courtroom. Her husband knew. Hall's wife, Frances, later said she trusted her husband completely. But neighbors were not so sure. Then, on the night of September 14th, Edward Hall and Eleanor Mills left their homes. Neither one ever returned. 2 days later, on a lover's lane outside town, two teenagers stumbled upon a scene they would never forget. Hall and Mills lay beneath a crabapple tree, almost gently arranged. His hat covered his face. Her scarf was wrapped around her throat. Between them, scraps of their own love letters lay scattered across the grass, torn to pieces, scattered like confetti at a funeral. Whoever did this did not just want them dead. They wanted them found exactly like that. The investigation was a disaster, almost from the very beginning. Crowds trampled the crime scene before police had even secured it. Souvenir hunters searched through the grass. The case went cold. Then, in 1926, a tabloid war forced New Jersey's governor to reopen the investigation. Frances Hall and her two brothers were arrested. The trial attracted more than 300 reporters. One witness, nicknamed the Pig Woman, claimed she had seen the murders from her hayloft after 33 days. Jury acquitted them all. No one was ever convicted. No one else was ever charged. For decades, investigators, authors, and amateur detectives built theory after theory. Jealous spouses, hired killers, even claims involving the Ku Klux Klan. But none of it has ever been proven. The crabapple tree is long gone now. And so is almost everyone who was alive that September morning. What the Hall Mills case left behind was not a conviction. It was a blueprint. The media circus, the tabloid wars, the public's appetite for scandal and tragedy, all of it would happen again and again throughout the century that followed, more than 100 years later. We still do not know who pulled the trigger beneath that tree. So we will ask you the same question people have debated for generations. If you had been on that jury, would you have voted to convict?